Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you taking some time out to come to our lunch series that we are having. Um, we've got great speakers. We've got a huge turnout. I think Barbara said we've probably got over 50 people registered today, so that is awesome. I'm going to have Becky Ivory introduce our speaker since she knows Sydney so well. So take it away.
Okay, I'm so excited. Can you hear me okay? I changed my speaker. Excited that Sydney would do this for us today. We had her planned to be our keynote speaker for our April event, and then when everything fell apart, I'm like, I want to hear from Sydney. So I met Sydney in the very, very successful speaker. When I first met her, is that she was so quick and she's very interested in people. She cares about people and helping them succeed. And that meant a lot to me. So one of the first things I did was go to her YouTube, because I wanted to know what she did. And I learned so much from watching one video from Sydney that took my business up a whole new level, that it was really exciting for me that I could learn that much from her in such a short period of time. So I know you're going to learn a lot from her. Let me just tell you a little bit about her. She was the only female in her engineering class in college. And then she went to work for your typical male engineering company. And there were some things about that that did not work well. And so she decided she could do this herself and went out and created her own business. And I'm hoping you're going to tell the story about, you know, how supportive your boss was. And the great thing is that Sydney has been so successful. She was just last week or the week before, she was just named as the 12th ranked women-owned business in Utah. So she's extremely successful. And there's nothing that I think Sydney couldn't accomplish, and she's going to teach you that the very same thing is true for you. So I'll turn it over to Sydney.
Thank you so much. Well, I am so excited to be here today, and I know that your time is valuable, so thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I'm going to go ahead and share my PowerPoint with you, and hopefully this will work like magic. So, all right, so just a tiny bit, Becky already told you some about me, but I grew up in Montana. I did graduate in civil engineering from BYU 26 years ago, which seems like forever now. I started my own business because I couldn't stand working where I was at. Becky said she wanted me to share the story, so I'll just share it super fast. When I finally decided to quit my job, I went in and talked to my boss and told him I was going to quit. And he got up, he really surprised me. He got up and he shut the door, and he came back and he just started pointing his finger. And he said, I don't know why you're leaving, because you do not have what it takes to be a successful consultant. And someday you're going to come back here begging me for a job. And when you do, your job's not going to be here. So I think you're crazy if you really quit. I was like, wow, that wasn't really what I was expecting. But I was determined. And so I went ahead and quit. And occasionally his company still hires me to do workshops. And so sometimes I come home from doing one of my workshops, and that very boss, is in one of my classes. And I come home and tell my husband, guess who was in my class today? The guy that told me I would never make it. Happily married, mother of 4 awesome kids. Sad to say I am an empty nester now. That's been a kind of hard of adjustment for me, but life is good. So, and my PowerPoint's not moving. Okay, this is a picture of my team. I think sometimes it's just fun to kind of see. My organization is pretty small, but we have a lot of fun together. And so, yeah, our tagline is the people side of engineering and construction. So we do a lot of fun things related to public relations and team building for construction teams. So the program I put together for you guys today, I'm so excited. And honestly, this is the first time that I've ever done this, but it's been in my head forever. So I'm so excited that you're willing to be the test group with me, because I know that all these principles work. And so putting them all together is going to be awesome. So the program today is I Dare You. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, if anybody ever said, I dare you, I had to take that stuff seriously. So my hope is today that you'll take this seriously, because I know for absolute certain that what I share with you will help you to have a happier life. So I have a contract to do work with the city of San Francisco. And one time I was out there, and I always use Uber in San Francisco because the parking is so expensive. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can Uber way cheaper than you can rent and park a car. So I had a workshop with the city of San Francisco on a Monday morning. And I went and I did my workshop, Ubered over there, did my workshop, finished everything up. Came out of the San Francisco city building down to the curb, and so I've got flip charts and an empty cookie container because I always do chocolate chip cookies for all of my workshops wherever I go. And so I called another Uber. The Uber comes and he picks me up, and I throw all my stuff in the back of the car. And I get in the back of the car, and so he turns around and he hands me a bottle of water and he says, "Happy Friday." Now, do you remember what day I said my workshop was? It was on Monday. So he hands me a bottle of water and he says, "Happy Friday." And then he starts driving, and I'm thinking to myself, I always do get a little scared when I'm in Oakland, San Francisco, like never really sure. But he seems nice enough. So he's talking and we're having conversation. And finally, I just lean up. I can't take it anymore. I lean up and I say to him, "Excuse me, did you know that today is really Monday? It's not Friday?" And he said, "Oh, I know that, but do you know what I know? People are always happier on Friday. So I've just decided if you're in my car, I want it to feel like it's a Friday." So I love that because that Uber driver knew that his circle of influence was his car. And when people got into his car, he wanted them to feel happy. And he, no matter what day of the week, he wanted them to feel like it was Friday, and he wanted them to feel happy. So I think there's a lot of power to the idea that we each have a circle of influence, and we get to choose. We get to choose what we let into that, and we get to choose how we operate in that. And so, whoops, sorry. So that's the wisdom of the Uber driver. All right, so now your assignment right now is, if you don't have something that you can write in, you're going to need something that you can make notes in. So get something that you can write in. I made a note here, something that you won't lose, at least for 90 days, okay? So maybe you have a favorite notebook that you keep notes in. Maybe you're gonna write on some paper and then make sure that you don't lose it. But we're just going to take a little break here and make sure that everybody has something to write in. All right, just go ahead and tell me in the chat if you need more time. I'll give you more time. Anybody need more time? All right, hopefully you have something to write with then. We'll go back. All right, so my next question for you is, when you think of happiness, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now? And I want you to write this down in your, whatever you're writing in right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, obviously 1 being low, 10 being absolute high, where are you right now? Just when you think, today I am this happy, what is that for you? So one of the reasons that I ask you to do this is because I think a lot of times we get so many good ideas, and I know you guys have been doing these every week, and there's been so much great content. I've been able to tune into a couple of them. But sometimes we just let that be on the surface, and it's just kind of on the surface and we don't really internalize it. So by even taking the time to sit and write down and think, how happy am I? And to write that down, that takes more intention. And so a lot of what we're going to do today is about intention. And the next thing that I want to just seed that I want you to think about as I give my presentation is this is the model that we're going to use today. And I'm going to step through and show you where this came from. But what we are going to do, the action that we're going to do today is that we're going to set a goal. And so I want you to start thinking in your mind, what area of your life do you want to set a goal in? Maybe it's in health and fitness, maybe it's financial, maybe it's relationship, maybe it's something at work, maybe it's cleaning up your office. I have a virtual screen on right now because you do not want to see my office. So I want you to just be thinking in the back of your mind, you're going to pick one goal, one thing that you're going to work on. So that's just a chance to get that seated. So like Becky said, I'm an engineer and I've learned a lot in engineering, and that's what I'm going to share with you. One of the things that I've learned is about formulas. So if we really want to be happier, this is what I've learned it takes. First, we have to have a desire to be happier. Then we have to decide what is our vision of what does happiness mean to us, because that's going to be different for all of us. And then we need to collect some survey data, and we put that together and we make a design. And then after we have that design, then we take it into the construction phase. And then I always add celebration because I think celebration is important. When we do those and we put those things together, that gives us increased happiness. So I'm going to tell you a little story. My first job working as an engineer was working for the Forest Service. And I had the unique opportunity to actually design some campgrounds. Now, it would make me so happy if there was somebody on this webinar that has been to Whiting Campground. It's up Mapleton Canyon in Utah County. Also did some in American Fork Canyon. But I didn't realize at the time how fortunate I was that I hit the Forest Service at this unique period of time where they had set aside big acres and acres of land, knowing that someday they were going to build a campground there. And my timing was just right that I got to go through the entire process that I'm going to share with you. And so the first thing is they had to have a desire to build a campground. And so this was the Whiting Campground. They knew what it was going to be named. That was a popular family name. And like I said, this one is at Mapleton Canyon. And so the first thing that we would do is we would go and we would walk the ground and we would just talk out loud to each other. And we would say, what's our vision of what we want to create here? Do we want to create a place where people would come and they would bring their families and put up big tents like this? Or is there a place maybe where we could have a trailhead where we could create a parking lot? We could have a trailhead where people could take off and go hiking. And by the way, these are all pictures from my real campground. Is there a place where we could have a big group area, a place for big family reunions or scout groups or church groups where 200 people could come at the same time? So as we're walking the ground when none of this is there, we're talking in our mind about what would the vision be that we would want to create. And then the next thing we would do is I would go out with the survey crew and we would survey the land. And so we would look for any areas that there was water, we would get all the topo information, and we would actually survey every one of those trees so that we knew where they were and how big they were. And then after we had the vision and the survey, then we would combine that and we would create a design for this campground so that we could start to figure out where would we put the picnic tables, where would we put the spurs, where would we put the areas where they could join together. Where would we put places where people could pull their trailers in and do their trailer camping? And after we finished the design, then we would put it out to bid and we would hire a contractor that would come in and construct it. And so we actually ended up constructing places where people could come in and put their tents. We were able to construct this awesome group area where we can have 200 people camp at the same time. And of course, You got to have restrooms in your campgrounds, right? And one of my favorite things about this campground is that this is the fire ring that we put into the group area. We had a man that worked for the Forest Service. He was in his 70s and he worked as a volunteer, but he was an incredible craftsman. And so he built these fire rings for us in the group areas, and they were just absolutely a work of art, just absolutely beautiful. And then after we finished building a project, most of the engineers and contractors, they were all ready to go to the next project. But I would always wave my hands and say, no, we have to stop. We have to celebrate what we've done. And so one of my favorite ways to celebrate is to go see people using my campground. This is a picture I just took last summer of a family literally just walking up the road. I get goosebumps just looking at this, walking up the road, holding hands and loving the place that I was able to create for them to come and hang out. And so I like to share this with you because as we talk about becoming happy, it's exactly these same steps that we're going to follow. We have to be very intentional about it. We have to design it. We have to figure out how to build it. It's not going to just happen for us. And so one of my favorite quotes by Abraham Lincoln says, most folks are usually about as happy as they make up their minds to be. This very famous woman, Myrna Thurber, all right, she's not that famous, but she is my mom, so she's very, very important. I remember as a little kid, she would tell me every day when we would get up, she'd say, you know what, Sid, today you have a choice. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be unhappy. So you might as well choose to be happy. It just makes life better for everybody in our house. And so I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to learn this at an early age. That honestly, that's the way my mom talked to me from the time I was a kid. And so I learned that happiness is a choice. And I'm fortunate that I learned that. But I also know that if you were not as fortunate to learn that when you were growing up, it's never too late. You can still learn it. And then Lucille Ball, I love this one. She says, it's a hell of a start being able to recognize what does make you happy. And so if you're not intentional enough to think about what is it that really makes me happy, you're going to have a hard time creating more happiness in your life. So part of this, as you can tell, is just being more intentional and taking the time. So I want you to think about, when you think about a vision for your life, if you wanted to change something, if you wanted to create happiness, more happiness through, maybe it's better health, maybe it's creating a better work environment, maybe it's awesome relationships, maybe it's a spiritual connection, maybe it has to do with finances, maybe it's just plain scheduling more fun. One of my friends that's on here today is my good friend Becky. And last year she had a big birthday. She turned 40 and she made a list of 40 things she wanted to do. And it was so much fun watching her go through and check those things off her list and accomplishing those. But again, she was intentional about it. So it starts with the vision. It starts about taking the time to think about what you want to create. So I'm going to take just a small break here. And I just want to go, and you can either use the chat or you can open up your microphone, or we're not that big today. So I'm just curious, does anybody want to share when they think about moving forward with the vision of something, if they could change something that would make them happier, what would that be? Anybody want to talk?
Why are we all so quiet? Hi, Sydney. Hey,
Hi.
this is Tammy, and I would say for me, with this change that we've had in our work environments and the pandemic and all of that, that for me, I have to have a good attitude about my work environment, because I'm at home, which we all want to be home. We all think, oh, I'll work from home. And then you have to work from home, and it's not as easy as you thought.
Right.
So for me, I just have to have a better work attitude about my environment at work, and then to work hard and then leave it. leave it behind and go to the rest of your house and be at home.
Excellent. Well, I will say, Tammy, when I started my business, I intentionally started a business from home. So I feel your pain because I've been doing this for 26 years. And I was actually just telling my coach last week that that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on, because now that my kids are gone, when my kids were home, I was a lot better at stopping and having dinner and doing things with the kids. And now that the kids aren't home, it's like work just never stops. It just goes and goes and goes until I drop into bed. Have to say shout out to Brittany Rhodes. She said she is also a female engineer. Yay, that makes me so happy. Anybody else have anything to share?
Well, this is Trina. I think one of the things I like that you had on your PowerPoint is great health, working on my own health. I'm in a situation where I work at home every other week. And like you, it can be 7:30 at night and I go, oh my gosh, I've got to go start dinner. Or my husband's like, are we having dinner?
Right.
So I guess one, creating that health that, starts before I start my work day, but also learning to leave it behind. Like it's 6:30, I'm signing off. It'll wait till tomorrow. That's hard for me to disconnect. So I've been slowly improving, but definitely not there yet.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. So a couple of comments we got over here on the chat. Becky says she wants to be less quick to take offense. That's an awesome one. Barbara wants to find a vaccine for COVID-19. I wish I could help you do that. Well, I can give you the formula. We can work on it. Jody says trying to start every day with the intention of being happy and seeing the best in every situation. Self-care has been a big one for me too. Self-care is huge and is definitely something that you could pick. Anybody else have anything that they want to share, either through chat or?
I would just say that this is Terry Klug. I have taken on a couple new things. Fit by 50 is one. I'm coming up on the 50 mark of life. And just decided that I was going to go. So I joined a boot camp and it's killing me, but every morning at dark 30, I get up and off I go. And then the other side of it is just to really plug into the idea that the world needs all of us to be our very best right now. And however that looks in your world, whatever skill set, whatever talent you bring to this, I think our world needs us to be best. So I get up in the morning and I go, I'm going to don the warrior suit today. I'm going to go figure out a way that we can get back to having live events, because I'm in the convention business and sell 3,000 plus person conventions, which is a little challenging. So that's kind of my charge.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Terry. And I do agree. And I apologize that I jumped right in with kind of not mentioning, the state of the world that we're in. But I think that that's so true. I think now more than ever, the world needs us. The world needs us as strong people that can show up and be there for others. And whether that means in our home, in our neighborhood, one of my favorite parts of COVID-19 has been we have these little neighbors that are just so cute, and their mom is a school teacher, and she, like the quarantine about did her in, having 4 kids and still trying to teach school online. And it may not have been appropriate social distancing, but we just got to where I do tea parties at my house and Play-Doh parties. And it has just been a fabulous thing that we were helping her out. And at the same time, these little kids just bring me so much joy. So just looking for ways that we can show up and be our best. I really appreciate that. Cheryl says, recognizing I can't control everyone else's choices, but loving them and letting them make their choices, just like I make mine. That's awesome. And that comes back to that circle of influence, figuring out what we have control over and being willing to let go of what we don't. All right, I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint again. All right, so the first step of this process is we're going to think in our mind, what is that vision? What is it that we want to create? I want to give you one more. I call this my bonus tip when I was putting this together last night. One of the things that I do every day is that I take time and it's kind of crazy little habit, but what I like to do is I like to set my alarm for about 15 minutes earlier than I actually have to get up. And so I turn off my alarm and I lay back in bed and I just think about what my day is going to be. So this morning I was thinking about you while I was laying in my bed this morning. I was thinking about you, knowing that I was going to have the opportunity to do this. And so it was kind of like I was playing it out in my mind and I was experiencing how could I show up for you and be the very best that I can? And so I thought to myself, I'm not going to be sitting. I'm definitely going to be standing. I'm going to put on my tennis shoes because they give me more energy. But I started to think through what could I do to show up and be the very best for you. Sometimes I think about what are going to be the difficult parts of my day. This afternoon, I have a meeting that's not going to be nearly as much fun as this one. It's a difficult meeting on a project that we're doing. And so I just kind of try to strategize. Again, how can I show up and do my best? Visualize a part of your day where you're going to relax and unwind. We recently got a hot tub and I love my hot tub. I love being able to just go at the end of the day and to just put those jets on my neck where I get my stress knots. But really plan ahead in your day. What can you do to relax and unwind? And then 3 words. This is something that it can be a very long part, but I'm going to give you just the summary of it. Is that I believe everybody should have a personal brand. And the best way that I found to make this alive and to make it real and to make it simple is to come up with 3 words that you would want people to describe you. So for me, mine are happy, high energy, and adding value. So every morning I say to myself, I'm going to show up and no matter who I'm with, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to have high energy, and I'm going to add value. So I'm going to give you just a minute, and I want you to think about 3 words, and they can change as you go along. But I want you to think, what would your 3 words be? How would you want to show up to serve others? How do you want to show up? What would make you happy if you showed up? Maybe it's, maybe it's positive. Maybe it's showing up with integrity. Maybe you want people to know that you're loyal. What's your personal brand? If I were to meet you and have lunch with you, by the end of that lunch, what would you want me to describe you to somebody else as? So I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to give you 1 minute to just think about your 3 words and jot them down there where you're taking your notes. All right, there's your 1 minute. Anybody willing to share what they came up with when they think about their personal brand?
I'll go. I just said curious, joyful, and engaged.
Oh, I love it. Curious, joyful, and engaged. Now that's somebody I would want to hang out with. Awesome. Anybody else?
I said confident, cheerful, and real.
Confident, cheerful, and real. Love it. From Brittany, we got loyal, genuine, and caring. Awesome.
I'll put I put down happy, kind, and funny.
Happy, kind, and funny. I love it. So it's fun to me when I hear these because they're all different, right? And that's the idea behind a personal brand, is that we're all different and we should all be showing up in different ways, but we all can serve the world in our own way. And so that's what's awesome. So with these 3 words, what I want you to do now, we're going to take one more small break. What I want you to do now is, I want you to put a reminder in your phone. If you don't know how to do that, find a millennial that can help you. But whatever time you kind of get started in the morning, maybe that's 6, maybe it's 7, maybe it's 8. I want you to put a reminder in your phone that will pop up, and mine just says happy, high energy, adding value. And it just pops up and it reminds me, and then I dismiss it. But I want you to take the time right now to put your 3 words into your phone, and then if you change them, you can change the message in your phone. But it's just a way to be intentional about how you start your day, reminding yourself that this is who I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to show up today. So all right. So hopefully you had a chance to do that. Like I say, if you need help, have a millennial teach you how to do it. All right. So the next step after we have a vision is that we have to create a design. And we have to realize that design takes time. As an engineer, this is one of the things we definitely learned. There's a lot of iterations, a lot of different things, but I want you to think about your life and think, when is the last time that you took time to actually design your own happiness? I'm certified to teach some of the Covey courses, and I had the opportunity many times to hear Dr. Covey in person, which is such a privilege. But one of the things that he used to say is, he used to say, most Americans will spend more time planning a family vacation than they will planning the rest of their lives. And I want you to think about that and think, do you take time to design what you want your life to look like? Do you take time to design how you can have more happiness? Or do you just get busy and life hits you and it is what it is? The next step is, and if you go back to the campground, remember this is where I went out with the survey crew to collect data. And we have to acknowledge where we are right now. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes. It might be one of my favorites because I made it up. But for a long time, as I started kind of my personal growth journey, I really struggled with, okay, I want to be happy, but I also want to improve and progress and become better. And so sometimes I would be unhappy because I wasn't progressing fast enough, or I would have all of these goals that I wanted to accomplish. And so one day, as I was taking some time to ponder and think about designing my life, I came up with this idea that I'm happy and content with my life today, knowing that because of the decisions I'm making, my life will get even better in the future. And so I know that we can all do this. We can choose to be happy when we get up in the morning. We can be happy and content and think, you know what, life is pretty good. But at the same time, I'm setting goals and I'm progressing. And I know that my life can get even better than it is right now. All right, so in design, you take time to do it right. I think going off the grid is really helpful to be able to do this. One of the things that I've read is when don't forget to plan time to be social. I put the group sites in the campground, having the group sites. I just had my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I had 3 birthday parties, and it was fantastic because I love people and I love birthdays. And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna plan some parties and have it the way I want it. And it was great. This is from a Harvard study, and it says brilliant people sometimes do the most unintelligent thing. When they're stressed, rather than investing in, they avoid the greatest predictor of success and happiness, and that's their social support network. So don't forget, even though we have to be careful with social distancing, that it's so important that we still design into our life and our happiness that we have social support. Then we need to go to work building it. I don't know if any of you have ever built your own house before, but in construction, it's important to follow the plan. It takes a lot of patience. Expect change orders. No matter what you're building, there's always going to be change orders. It's the same way as we build our own happiness plan. Things aren't going to go exactly the way that we planned. But then another powerful part is that we can develop habits that last. And then don't forget to celebrate. Celebrate often. Plan in your celebrations. They don't have to be huge, but make sure that they're planned. And I think one of the biggest key tips to happiness is to always have something to look forward to. Personally, I love all travel, but I really love cruises. And I went through a point in my life where I told my husband, every morning I get up, I want to know when my next cruise is. And so sometimes we would come home from a cruise and we would start looking for our next cruise. So always having something to look forward to is important. And now this is the part that I'm so excited about. We are going to get into the I Dare You 90-day challenge. So what we're going to do is, instead of just thinking about all these things I shared with you, we are going to put them into action. And so I included on the invitation, if you have an accountability partner, that's awesome. If you don't, I want you to still go through these exercises and then find an accountability partner. And you can explain to them, or you can send them the link to this video that I'm sure will come out, and you can share that with them. This is why I want you to have an accountability partner. So this is data that was taken from the American Society of Training and Development. And they said the probability of completing a goal, this is based on research. If you have a goal, you have a 10% probability that you'll accomplish that goal. If you have specific accountability appointment with the person you've committed to, that goes from 10% to 95%. Can you guys even believe that? I totally believe it. That's why I continue to pay coaches the whole time that I've been building my business. Almost consistently I've had a coach, and I continue to pay coaches because they offer accountability. And so, so this is what we're going to do in the I Dare You contest or challenge that we're doing today. Is that's why I want you to have an accountability buddy, because it makes such a huge difference. So we're going to go back to this, and what I want you to do is I want you to draw a star. If you have a full sheet of paper, use a full size sheet of paper and draw out the star. And go ahead and at the points of the star, go ahead and write in the vision, data, design, construction, and celebration. I just saw my friend Andrea from Southern Utah. I'm so glad you're here, Andrea. And Cheryl, thanks. Cheryl Johnson Harding, thanks for fitting me into your day. That means a lot. Okay, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to get this star. And so at the top we have the vision, and I like to do it this way, kind of clockwise. We start with the vision, we collect the data, we make the design, we construct it, and we celebrate it. Sorry, I should have told you, don't put anything in the middle of your star yet. If you already did, make a new one. Sorry about that. Okay, so why start with one goal in the STAR model? The first reason is because this works. I have used this model in so many different ways. Recently, I've used this model to get more healthy, and I have lost 24 pounds since the beginning of the year using this model. I use this model as my husband and I have been talking about retirement. What does that look like? How much money do we need? We've used this exact same model. There's so many different ways that you can apply it. It also works with teams. We work with a lot of different construction teams in our business, and we use this exact same model when a team is coming together to create their vision, collect their data. Have a huge 3-year project with the Nevada Department of Transportation right now. And guess what model we're using? We're using the STAR model because it helps. We've created a clear vision. We did surveys to collect data with employees and with contractors. We designed a program, and now we're in the construction implementation phase. So I promise you that this model, it's golden, it works. The reason we're going to pick one goal today is because I know for certain when you accomplish one goal in an area of your life, it gives you momentum into other areas. It gives you a confidence. There was 2 things I wanted to work on in my business, and I couldn't decide which one. And it was funny when I finally, and I don't know if any of you subscribed when I was doing the month of April, I did 2 videos every week during just talking about resiliency. That was kind of a big thing for me. I couldn't decide if I should do that or this other thing I wanted to work on. It was funny, once I started to do this video series, like it got so much easier and it wasn't hard. And then that momentum helped me go over and do the other thing that I was trying to decide if I really could do it or not. And so by doing one thing and getting that confidence and getting that momentum and getting better at that, it's amazing how that can affect other areas of your life. And then I had somebody tell me yesterday, well, you have to do this for 3 weeks because it takes 3 weeks to develop a habit. Okay, I've read all over the internet. Sometimes it's 21 days, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 90. There's not one answer to how long it takes to develop a habit. But we are going to do ours for 90 days. And I know that that is a really good start. It may not be a magic number when it comes to developing a habit, but I know that it is a magic number when it comes to accomplishing a goal. Because 90 days, if you set a goal at the beginning of the year and you say, oh, I'm going to do this year, that is so long that there's no urgency to that. You just think, oh, well, I'll start on it later. If we say we're going to do something in 30 days, maybe some things we can accomplish in 30 days, but it's not enough time to accomplish something really significant. And so 90 days is really, really the sweet spot where we can accomplish something very significant, and at the same time, it's short enough that it gives us the urgency that we have to get going on it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm hoping you'll be able to see these. Maybe not. I thought this would just be a fun way to share, but maybe you're not going to be able to see it. Shoot. I don't know why Zoom does this. Okay, there we go. So the first thing is I want you to pick one, not 3, not 5 or 6 things. One thing you want to improve in the next 90 days. Pick something that will make you happier. So again, this comes down to, do you want to focus on health? Do you want to focus on relationships? Do you want to focus on financial? Do you want to focus on setting better boundaries as far as what time you're going to quit work now that you're working at home? But I want you to pick one very specific thing that you want to work on. So I'm going to be honest with you here. One of the things that has been all right, I'm just reading a message from Lena. Sorry, I probably didn't say that right. But she says, I'm the worst at designing my happiness. All I do is work and think about work. I'm so exhausted all the time. I want to say to you, I'm glad you're here today. And if you don't have an accountability partner, I'm going to be your accountability partner, because this is how life changes, by picking one thing and working on it. And maybe that is the boundaries of your work time. So you're going to pick one thing, and then the next part is that you're going to commit to working with an accountability buddy and sticking with it for 90 days. So if you don't have an accountability buddy yet, I want you to just brainstorm some ideas of who your accountability buddy could be. Now, you do not want this to be your significant other. That's not a good idea. You want it to be somebody that you're close enough to that you can share and be real with, but not your significant other. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to go through that star, and you're going to jot down vision. What does success look like? If you're working on a financial goal, what does success look like in 90 days? Is it paying off a credit card? Is it putting more money in the bank? Is it saving up for a vacation? What does that look like? Don't be afraid to close your eyes and visualize. So I just want you to jot down next to the star at the point at the top where it's the vision. What is the vision for what it is you want to accomplish? What does that look like? What does that feel like? So I'll tell you what I'm doing for my 90 days is I am going to get a draft done of a book. And I've been teased about not writing a book and how can you be a speaker for this many years and not have a book. And so I finally decided I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I have recruited an accountability partner, and we're following this process. And so that's my vision, is that 90 days from now, I'm going to have a draft of a book. And then the next step is, after the vision, the next step is the data. So you need to have a way that you can measure your progress. All right. And one of the things that I learned when I was designing campgrounds is I told you that we surveyed every single tree. Now, in order to get to the final vision of this campground that families could come and enjoy, we had to take trees out. Sometimes in our lives, there's these trees that have been in our life, and this is the way that we've always done things. Or it's something that's been there for a long time. And sometimes we have to think, how can we remove those trees? How can we get those out of there? So sometimes it's a process of figuring out what we have to remove, like the trees, but then we have to figure out what is it that we can measure. So for my book, right now I have an outline and I have different chapters. And so the way that I'm going to measure it is by how I think I have 12 different chapters, and so that will be what I will measure, is how many of those have I had the chance to get drafted out. So you have to think about how you can measure that. Now, it doesn't have to be something that specific. It can be like we started our rating at the beginning with happiness. It can be a weekly rating of how happy do I feel? How do I feel if I'm working on somebody's goal to to be less quick to take offense, is what Becky says. You can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How am I doing? And then you can compare that week after week and see if you're getting better. And so what you're going to do now is you're going to create your design. I'm so sorry about this. You're going to create your design. So what is your plan for the first week? How are you going to do whatever your goal is? And you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but one of the favorite tools that we use in our workshops is called how. So a lot of times when we go work with an organization, they say, well, we need to improve communication. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start having more regular meetings. Well, how are we going to do that? We keep asking how until they say, okay, we're going to have staff meeting in person or via Zoom every Monday morning at 8:30 to get everybody on the same page. So you have to ask the question how, until you know exactly what it is that you're going to do tomorrow. So if I were working on being more healthy, when I was doing this, personally, I chose to use intermittent fasting. And so my how was, I know what my eating window is going to be, and I know what I can do in that window, and I know how many days a week I work out. And I make that plan. That's my how. At the beginning of the week, I have scheduled my days at the gym. I go to Orange Theory. I love it, but I have to get it on my schedule. And so I know exactly, I've designed my week of what that's going to look like, and that helps me to be successful. And then set a time each week to evaluate and design your next week. So I want you to do this with your accountability partner. Maybe it's on Friday at the end of the work week. Maybe it's on Sunday. Sunday is kind of my day when I like to kind of unpack how the week went and schedule my next week. And so figure out a day of the week that you are going to meet with your accountability partner. And you can meet in person, you can meet on the phone, you can meet over Zoom. But I promise you, if you will do a weekly meeting with your accountability partner, it's going to be that difference of that chart that I showed you. On your own, you have a 10% chance. With an accountability partner supporting you, you've got 95% chance of being successful. So I know that this works. And so figure out which day of the week you're going to meet with your accountability partner. All right, somebody just said try holding it closer to the screen. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so the next step is to construct. So we're going to construct, we're going to build what we designed. So that means we're going to go to work, and all I have written on my paper here is to set that weekly time that you're going to check in with your accountability buddy. So for me, as I'm designing this, how I'm going to write my book, my schedule is already over the top crazy. And so what I have to do is I have to look at my week and say, where can I find 2 hours here, 2 hours there that I can focus and I can dedicate to my book. And so that's how I'm going to construct each week as I go along in this 90-day process. And then the last step is to celebrate. Don't wait until the end of the 90 days to celebrate. Figure out what is, for me, when I get one chapter drafted out, that is going to be cause for celebration. So what does celebration look like for you? For me, it's calling my friend Marcia, who's my massage therapist. I say there's nothing better in the world than a Marcia massage. That is the ultimate way for me to celebrate. But plan that into your process. Plan that in so that you know you're going to have a celebration. If you can celebrate with your accountability buddy, that makes it even better. But you have to plan something to celebrate. It doesn't have to be big, but if it can be big, that's even all the better. All right, so those are the steps. So actually, before we go to this, I'm gonna just, got a couple of slides here to wrap up, but I just want to hear from you guys. Any comments, any questions? Are you really going to do this? Because it'll change your life. I promise it will. I absolutely promise this is the key. To do a 90-day goal with an accountability buddy, it is the absolute key to accomplishing your goals. So let's hear from somebody. Are you excited about it? What questions do you have?
Hey, Sydney, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that I find holds me back a lot is, you know, if I set a goal and the time that I have set aside is really early in the morning, my morning brain is not my afternoon brain.
Okay.
And it's, you know, so just kind of, how do you get yourself to kind of get past that and get started, right? Get through like the doubt or the, oh, I could do this, you know, differently, and justifying why to not start that goal or do that thing.
Okay. One of the things is I think part of, as we become more self-aware, I think part of what we realize is that we have different energies at different times of the day. And I'm not saying this to give you an out, but honestly, I think you have to figure out if your morning energy is going to allow you to accomplish that. If it's not, you might need to rearrange your schedule. But I believe that we can retrain ourselves. It might not be our natural energy ability, but I think we can retrain ourselves. For me, a lot of it, if I know that I need to do something in the morning, I start the night before, and I will write out the night before I go to bed. Like these are my intentions, or whatever you're working on. I would write it out and say, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to, for me, spend these 2 hours productively writing my book. Work on it the night before, put it into your brain, go to bed with that on your brain, so that your mind knows that that's your intention and that's what you're going to do. It really does make a big difference. Hopefully
Thank you.
that helped.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, let me give you a couple of things here, and then I'm happy to stay on if anybody wants to stay on longer. If it's okay with the bosses, I'm happy to do that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So this was just so much to kind of absorb. Is there going to be access to your PowerPoint or the video version of this, or anything that we can go back and look at? My accountability partner and I have both been here together listening, and we're saying, what can we do when we forget?
I'm happy to share my slides, and then I'm guessing the chamber will put up the recording. And then I am going to share with you also, nice lead in, Cheryl, you'd think that we'd planned this, but let me just show you really quickly one other thing.
For the record, we did not.
So we'll come back to that in 1 second. So resilience is key. Working with your accountability buddy should give you support and help you to be resilient in this. And then I'm also a believer in moving your body for 30 minutes every day. And if that, sometimes I know we underestimate the power of going for a walk. Whether that's, if you don't have an exercise routine, just start walking for 30 minutes. And if you can, I think there's great power in going without your phone, if that's a possibility. But moving your body for sure for 30 minutes will help you accomplish your goal, whatever it is. Don't dwell on the past. Don't let your mind go to, oh, I've tried this in the past and it didn't work. Forget about this. This is new. You have the power of a model that is proven, that works. So just put all of that behind you. And then own your strengths. Know that you're going to do this different than anybody else, that you're created different, your brand is different, and that's the way it's supposed to be. One thing that I've decided that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Friday video for you guys. So if you want weekly motivation, this is just for this group. It's nothing generic. Again, this is a big commitment for me, but I'm committed to you guys. I appreciate you being willing to kind of be my test group through this. So I decided this at about midnight last night. I might throw up a Facebook group or a Kajabi group. I don't know yet, but for sure I know that if you send me an email and just in the subject line, you can say, I take the dare, and send it to Sydne at sydnespeaks.com. What I'm going to do is every Friday, I'll just create a video group, and every Friday, I'll just send out a little video to you. And then I guess you guys can tell me in the chat box, if you'd be interested, we could create a Facebook group where we could have some interaction back and forth, but I didn't want anybody to feel obligated if that doesn't sound fun to them. But for sure, I'll do the video to keep you motivated, and this will keep me extra accountable to my 90-day goal that I'm working on. And then one of the things that's my favorite, when I was in studying engineering, when I started out, there were 2 of us females. I actually started at Ricks College, which is now BYU, Idaho. And one night we were walking across campus, and we were tired and we were frustrated, and we were like, I don't know if I'm going to do this engineering thing. Like, this is way too hard. And so we kind of made this little pinky swear pact to each other that we were going to finish. And we came up with this little chant that I've used over and over, and it still works. And I want to share it with you. And it says, and I should have changed the slide to say I. So I know, I'm going to say this to you. I know you're tough, you're smart, you're strong, you can do this. Grrr! And you have to do the grrr like that. And it just gets inside of you. And then you go, oh, I can do this. So I want you to pretend this says I, and we're all going to chant it together. I'm tough, I'm smart, I'm strong, I can do this. Grrr. Okay, on 3, you ready? I'm tough, I'm
tough,
smart,
I'm smart, I'm strong,
I can do
I
this.
can do it.
Grrr. All right, so I know that you can do this. There's no doubt in my mind. But again, I know that 90 days is the sweet spot. I know that you can accomplish things in 90 days that will blow your mind. And I know for certain, I want you to keep thinking of that graph, that 95%. If you have an accountability buddy that keeps you accountable, then it will make all the difference in the world. So for weekly motivation and support, Sydne at Sydne Speaks, there's my phone number. If you do have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, talk to you. And so I'm just going to jump back to the chat, and I want you guys to just tell me if you would be interested in a Facebook group. Throw it in the chat and know that it won't hurt my feelings. Yeah, if we did Facebook, I could just do the videos as Facebook Lives, and then we wouldn't have to have another video platform too. So we could try that. So we've got a few yeses there. Yes, Facebook group. All right, well, I'm assuming then, Becky, that you have everybody's contact info that we'll be able to invite them to that.
Yeah, we can use the email address to anybody who signed up.
Okay.
If you want to create like a little blurb and send to me, I'll make sure that gets sent out to the group.
Okay, will do.
Perfect.
And then we'll do a 90-day Facebook group, and I will commit to Friday videos, and probably just within Facebook. We can do them live, and then they'll always be there for whenever you can go in, and we'll keep it all in one spot. That would be awesome. Hey,
Perfect.
I think that's it.
Thank you. Hey, I'm going to have Barbara say a few final words to the group real quick. You want to take it away, Barbara?
Thank you, Trina. And I do want to say thanks so much to the leadership of our Women in Business group. Trina Coley is the chair of Women in Business for ChamberWest, does a phenomenal job leading our planning committee, and Becky Ivory for your work as the vice chair is fantastic as well. So got a great group of ladies that are putting this all together every month. Our next event we have coming up, we have scheduled for July 14th, and I do have a quick question for you. It's going to be Jan Ann Craig, and she's going to speak about 5 steps to living beyond your goals and dreams. And she's written a book, best-selling author, The Audit Principle, 5 Powerful Steps to Align Your Life with the Law of Success. And teaches our ability to achieve success is seldom about a person's qualification or credentials, but rather about identifying and pursuing a purpose with correct strategies. So look for information on that. But I do have a question for you. Our committee's asked me to ask this question. We've got people that really want to meet in person, and we have others that don't. So at the bottom of your screen, there's like a little reaction button. And if you have interest in meeting in person at a local hotel here in West Jordan, would you please just hit the reactions and hit like a thumbs up or a clapping? We're just trying to get a feel for whether we want to do this via Zoom or whether we want to do it via in person. So can you guys give me some reaction?
This is for the next meeting?
This is for the meeting on July 14. Okay, I'm only seeing one reaction. Okay, that's making me think that maybe everybody's more comfortable with Zoom still at this point. So, okay, with that, thank you so much. We're delighted to have you join us again. Thanks so much to our Women in Business Leadership. And Sydne, you're amazing. And your star of success, right? Your star of knocking it out of the ballpark. And we women, I love that. Hear us roar. Thank you so much for your wise counsel. The Facebook group sounds like a lot of fun. And I know Becky will write us to make sure we get everything set up to accommodate that. So with that, we wish you all the best. Go out and have a phenomenal day, and let's hear you roar.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you.